second product was built in 3 days. It was our own problem. We needed checklists. It was built with this ridiculous MVP approach, or ridiculously radical. So we hosted the whole checklist inside of a field in Jira. The whole checklist became a text representation of a checklist. And 700 people started using it in 6 months. And after that, it became $1 million business with half a developer.
Our best product is to build products. So we know how to deliver product to the market, product engineering, product design, product management, but also we've learned how to market products, scale products. When you join all those components, we know the craft, how to launch product after product.
Hi, my name is Yaroslav Lazor.
And my name is Sergiy Korolov.
And we're co-CEOs at Railsware.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their
A
back.
company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really
It's
want it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story. I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how Yaroslav, Lazor, and Sergiy Korolov are building world-class products, and their happy customers can prove it to you. Yaroslav Lazor started writing code when he was 10 years old. It took him a while to understand that making a difference in the world wasn't just about writing code, but he has arrived there these days. He's a father of 4 daughters, 2 of which are artists and a couple who are digging into their own entrepreneurial roots with running a lemonade stand. He lives in Los Angeles and has learned to be a better person through pushing himself as a founder. Sergiy Korolov also started coding when he was young, though 4 years later than Yaroslav. He went to a technical university, and as his career and leadership grew, the number of lines of code he contributed to decreased. He is located in Poland and loves to snowboard in the winter and bike in the summer. He has 3 kids and recently started teaching coding to his oldest son. Yaroslav and Sergiy were building software for clients, the typical Ukrainian software route. Over time, they realized that building their own products was the best way to make an impact. So much so that they decided to start doing just that. This is the creation story of Railsware.
Railsware is a product studio. If we take economics out of it, what we would do, we would build solutions, software solutions, AI solutions, doesn't matter, it's still software, that would help real people in real world solving real problems. Maybe putting a smile to a face for parents that go back to their kids at night and not being like completely tired and being inspired. That would be a great effect that I would love to be a part of. I had this saying for a while, if you hate something, you better be good at it. Otherwise, it will control your life. This really helped us to transform within the company to become T-shaped professionals. I, expert, and then the top is generalist, expert generalist. And we became like star-shaped professionals. Ukrainian language has this letter Z, which basically looks like a star. It's like X, but it has another pipe in it. So we're like the Z shape. We just basically try to figure, instead of labeling people at a particular roles, we're saying, hey, we're building the software together. Maybe you did this function and that function and maybe this function. We're stretching our data analysts to become product managers in data analytics, but also to become members of the game. Your job is not to write SQL, it's to figure something out. The job is to figure things out. So basically, Railsware became, based on the concept, a true product studio where we nurture products into existence, into expansion, servicing other people.
I like this definition that we've discussed recently, is that our best product is to build products. So we know how to deliver product to the market. We know the product engineering, product design, product management, but also recent years we've learned how to market products, how to scale products. And when you join all those components, we have the skill and we know the craft how to launch product after product. As any Ukrainian companies, or like majority of Ukrainian companies at that moment, we were focusing on building software for clients. So we didn't have our own products. But then at a certain moment, we understood that it's not enough just to write the code that clients tells you to write. We need to understand how to build products, understanding product management aspect. And so we went to Silicon Valley, to companies like Thoughtbot, to companies like Pivotal Labs, and learned from them how to build products, how to run consultancy on the better level, really delivering the experience of building products rather than outsourcing some software engineering work. And that was the first step. We can say that a proof of concept of Product Studio. When you're able to build a product for product owner who has understanding and domain knowledge. And then we started to experiment with our own products without understanding how to market them, how to sell them, but we knew how to build them and we put them to the market. Luckily, some of them started to grow by themselves without putting many efforts from the marketing perspective. And later on, we started to learn how to put marketing efforts into our own products to grow them further. So that's like a short story, I would say, of the evolution.
I'm curious about how it started, right? I'm curious about, what was the catalyst, right? Or maybe it's the catalyst product or several products or the first thing you built, maybe liken it to Railsware's MVP as maybe not minimum viable product, right? Maybe that applies to the products you're building, but the first version of Railsware. Tell me about that story.
Our product culture came from solving our own problems. So Mailtrap, we were sending emails to real customers because everyone does a copy of production environment to staging, and then you send copies of real customers. Our idea was simple. Let's make a trap of an inbox that will show all the emails that the app sends from development and staging environment. The product appeared and then it started mutating and expanding. We gave it to the market, the people started using it, and everyone loved it in general. The second product was built in 3 days. It was our own problem. We needed checklists to run our own business. And we needed to write them down in a way that anyone could execute them. It was built with this ridiculous MVP approach, or ridiculously radical. So we hosted the whole checklist inside of a field in Jira. The whole checklist became a text representation of a checklist. It was like a JSON, but not really a JSON. So technically, if you put this text with this kind of an API expression of itself, you get a working renderable checklist. But we did it in 3 days. So we implemented 20 features in nothingness. It was ridiculously radical. This is a proof of concept. This is not even an MVP. It would not even be a proof of concept. This is not serious. Developers would say, this is ridiculous. This is stupid. And 700 people started using it in 6 months. And after that, it became $1 million business with half a developer, slowly adding complexity to it and then creating backend and making all the hard stuff that the developers would do. This was a blend of product management, business understanding, because we were the ideal customer profile, and developer understanding from architectural perspective and which code do you have to write and so on. So that was this shaped expertise. This was this approach, hey, let's solve it, but in a way that it has this magical touch to it. And that was a magical touch because we built it in 3 days. It was so cool the way we built it. And this is also a very similar way how we built Calendly. That is in the heart of how we run the whole company and the culture of the company, and in the heart how we teach people to do things and how we push them to do things and so on.
I'm curious, your product studio, you are looking to solve your own problems in the early days and you're looking to solve your customers' problems. How do you decide what is the next most important thing to build within Railsware, right? How do you decide this is the next product we need to go attack, or this is the next problem we need to decide? And I'm curious about, criteria that you use to really work through that.
So there are periods of diverge, converge, and we were in diverge state when we were creating opportunities some time ago when we came up with those 3 products we're actively focused on. But right now we have 2.5 version of Railsware when we started to organize joint ventures with other domain experts. In our products, we are investors of ourselves, like fully. We cover domain, we cover software development, so everything is on us. While in these joint ventures, we have partners who are responsible for domain knowledge and promoting product. But then there is a period of converge when we experimented with one thing, second thing, third thing, and we see that something works better, something works not that great. And so we focus on those that works better, and that's a converge stage already, right? When we choose, all right, here are the priorities. And priorities, of course, is the potential for growth, revenue, amount of efforts that you need to invest into getting some results. And this is what I'm talking about right now is on the company level. But similar approaches we have in the products. So there are some directions that we explore, some of them, and how we explore those dimensions. Let's say, latest example in MailTrap. So we decided to introduce automation as a part of the marketing email campaigns. Like usually this is the feature that marketing experts expect in email marketing campaigns product. But we didn't know what are the features most important ones to start with. And so we put as a part of the menu on the left, this just item automations. And then when you click on that, there is just a type form that says that, hey, we are working on this feature. It's an alpha version. If you want to join it, please fill in the form. We have a bunch of questions. And it's not that easy. It's not a form of 2 questions. And many advisors would tell you that, hey, that's a bad idea. People will not just go through the form and fill in 20 different questions, which require their brain capacity. But in fact, in 2 weeks, we collected more than 400 replies. And it was enough for users, enough for their motivation to fill in the form. And so we daily receive more and more answers to the question. And so you have a bunch of features and they are prioritized by themselves. So you know which are most popular, less popular. And of course, we will start with most popular ones.
We have this change of mentality. The way we look at what is the next step that is going to be a consistent next step for the whole company, not just be the next revenue step. Because for example, next revenue step might require you to hire some other people. So we're always trying to do this, yet again, Z-shaped or this extreme prioritization where we're looking into all the direction of what will happen within the product and how can we make the next consistent effect of some output. We have approaches that we name and then we try to understand them. One of them is the founder mode. Founder mode is when you listen to what's happening around you as a founder, you start sitting and noticing patterns that are not typically seen or noticed by your teammates. Especially when the teammates are in a particular role, for example, sales role, they're really trying to sell the current product. And in order to make this change, that you're not selling a car, but you're selling a faster horse, or you're not selling an MP3 player, you're selling 1,000 songs in a pocket, you need to be in this iPod. You need to be in this state of mind where you listen to more than the first response from the words that you get from the industry, right? Because you're talking to, let's say, we have this product where we need to work with channel partners that manage a certain set of clients, and then we try to explain them how our product works and why they should sell it. And they're not buying it. This is because we don't listen enough to their own aspect of the problem space. And if we keep on doing this function within our company the way we do it, and our salespeople are doing a decent job, it's just not going to succeed. It will never succeed. It doesn't matter how hard you try. It will just be bad. And then the weirdness of the situation is that they will not tell you, hey, you need to do it differently. Don't teach me this. You need to give me a different way. They don't know. So until you figure out that you need to tell them that this is the faster horse, and they're like, oh, wow, that's a no-brainer then. Until you find this aspect to them, there'll be no sale. So priority is an incredibly hard thing in this case, especially in a multi-product environment, where you have to understand what's the next step, which most likely is very unobvious step, by understanding the whole environment and understanding everything. And then one of the things, how we prioritize things, is also data-driven, because you make an assumption, oh, maybe this is because of X. And then we try to go into data and to find this representation of X, this shadow of X in the data. And one of our products is Coupler.ai, which helps you pull the data and then make decisions and create this framework. But for us, prioritization is this super hard, weird flow where you have to look at things very differently and then actually figure out what the next step is to do like a successful output.
Maybe I can do just a bit of summarization here. So we use different channels to collect this information from the potential customers, existing customers, some insights from the market, and a data-driven analysis as well. So we observe what our clients do, where do they stuck in some pipelines, how can we optimize things there and here. Sometimes you think, let's say, we have 10 engineers that we hire. Then we need to hire 20, let's say, a month, not 10 engineers per month. And then we look at the pipeline, and pipeline tells you then with current conversion that you have just 1%, and this is our case. that we hire 1% out of one engineer out of 100, then you need incredible amount of engineers. There are maybe not that many engineers, Ruby engineers on the market, because Ruby is our major technology that we're focusing on. Data is very important. It opens your eyes and show you where are the bottlenecks and where you can put your efforts. And specifically, otherwise you have this just abstract feeling that if you will put a bit more efforts, then you can do a much better job. But in fact, with the pipelines, especially when you have this conversion over the period, like over the different stages, sometimes if you need to get the purchased product, you need to fix something in the middle pipeline, not on the beginning of the pipeline. Because other way around, you bring a lot of water and just get some drops out of this huge barrels.
I'm curious about team. How have you built your team for Railsware, right? Because your product studio, you're not building one product, you're building lots of great products. How do you build that team, and what do you look for in those people to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you?
So this founder mode is important, right? This is how we hire new positions. So as you understand, me and Yaroslav, we're engineers, right? So usually companies starts when you have some representative from operation experience and then some from technical experience, and then they join their experiences and build the company. In our case, we didn't have much experience in finances, legal, recruitment, marketing, and so on. So that's type of areas we haven't explored and didn't know about. So we knew how to hire engineers because we just have some possibility to assess comparing to our skills and to the kind of skills of the other engineers that work in the company. But then even hire product manager, it was hard to understand like how you should build a process. So it gives you a scientific approach to pick a good product manager out of, let's say, 100 or out of 10. And so we applied this G-shaped founder mode approach. We started to play role of product managers ourselves on a certain level. And when you start to play this role, you start to feel and understand where are the specific details you need to put your attention at. And then you start to search for the person who is better in those details than you. And then you find the one, and of course, when you start a new position, when you department, let's say, you need to find this cornerstone, a person who will be able to build a team around themselves, right? That's very important. So you need to feel this potential that leadership skill for this first person is a required thing. Other way around, you will not be able to give the responsibility to the person to move the team forward. You will be constantly involved and help the whole team move forward. But if you have multiple positions, you in this case will be involved in all those multiple positions, multiple departments, which ideally you need to avoid. You hire this cornerstone person, right? So key person in the team, which is better than you in doing those aspects of product management, let's say. And then similar case applicable on finances. So Yaroslav spent years in finances with kind of experts who were not that great experts, having a lot of pains out of that experience. And only after years of experiments, we understood like who is this role we need. But it's always role within the context, right? You have a context, you have the company processes, and you need to find the person which will fit. But of course, you need to fix from both sides, like from the processes perspective, culture perspective, and you need to find this good match.
So I spent years in denial of doing finances. I hated it. I wanted to hire someone, and we did, and she was understanding finance as well. But it just, in order to make something work within the company, it's not about the particular domain knowledge of a particular space. You need to release something. You need to let something go. You need to focus on something else. You need to create a certain processes. You need tools, because one thing is like, what is the speed that you can run with? The second one is there a bicycle here that can help you conserve 80% of energy that you spend on running? And only when I released my denial and I'm like, okay, I'm running this company without P&L for the last 10 years. Let's maybe do something with that. And we build a P&L, because the problem was that we were in multi-country setup, very complicated for stupid reasons, really. But when you release the denial and you start thinking, how do you solve the actual problem? And then you turn on this thunder mode and you start connecting things, technology, approaches, principles, people. You work with people, you see what's the problem for them completing transactions or doing the transactions the right way or doing the accounting the right way. You see their problem. I have a solution for that. As from the software perspective, let's do this thing where you don't have to copy paste stuff. It just integrates and it's easy. We can do it in a day. And then you start building on top of that. And then boom, all of a sudden you have a system that is great, that works, and it uses our approach. And very often, instead of hiring a leader, what we do is we create a Frankenstein. We take a hand from this person, a head from that person, a leg from this person, and then like someone with this founder mode approach bakes them together into existence until it says, it's fine, it's alive, and leads it to go on stage, to work, to start working. And then when this leadership with software and people and functions works out, maybe then you can think of hiring executives that it feels will be a great match for the company culture, because you don't even know what your company culture is before that. You need to have this understanding. At least this is how it worked out for us. I know there's a lot of people who are lucky and they hire and they say, I don't even know what's happening in there. It works pretty well. How do you know it works pretty well if you don't even know what's happening in there? That's the first question. But the second was like, it's okay. Let us not ask those questions because maybe it'll make you miserable that it actually doesn't work, but you don't want to know it right now. Not having denial, actually diving into things and actually understanding makes you, again, into a better person later on, because you know how it works, you know how to support it, you know what to do with it. We hire about 0.6% of people. We had 14,000 applicants in the last 18 months. And we hire 1 out of 200 eventually, 1 or 150 for R&D, if you count onboarding, because we have 3 months of onboarding and then people fall off the wagon at that time. We have a lot of stages of recruiting, and every stage slices a decent amount of folks that we know will not work. Because it's only the first step that functionally you know how to work. And the second step, you can be a collaborative human being that could be effective by talking and collaborating together and listening and trying and being serious and showing up. But the third step would be like, okay, let's pull you into this U-shaped environment where you learn more things and become an integrated part of the product, and then let's make something like really cool together.
So there is one very important part is we call it half day or full day. It doesn't matter which position it is, but you work with the 2 persons from Railsware side on the real task. If you're engineer, you work on some feature, like if you are designer, you design some feature, product manager, you work with analytics and pre-designing some feature, describing it and researching it. The candidates, the applicants, they're able to feel the experience of working with us while we are able to understand how we will work together. What is the collaboration? Because it's all about collaboration, right? So you can be very talented, but the way you collaborate with your teammates will not work out. So we do a full day experience for each other. And this is something that many candidates admit as the very interesting experience. I know bigger companies like Google does a lot of things like that, but smaller companies like ours with just 215 people, they usually, have a call, have a 1 hour discussion, and then, all right, you are hired or you are not hired. So it's a lot of the random outcomes from this type of interviews. And we try to keep this type of experience even in COVID, when the demand on engineers was significant. It was just super hard to hire any engineer, more than extremely ridiculous. And we tried to keep this level. And once we started to lower down our expectation, it still showed that it will not work out. So you have a wishful thinking that maybe it will work out, but the life showed us you need to keep the level of expectation. No matter what other way around, you just invest in something that will not work out. You will lose time, you will lose money, and you will not get result. One interesting concept that we coined in Railsware is everything is product. So every department that we build or any big function that we build, we treat as a product. There are users of that product, there are developers of that product, the product managers of that product. And so when we design it, when we design internal processes, when we design how the team should behave, we treat it as a product. So, and every product we start with the bridges. It's a framework that we can talk about maybe later. It's like a discovery session within a specific format. So when we start a function within the company, let's say recruitment, we did such bridges session. We figure out, okay, we have candidates, we have Railswareans, we have company, we have some other subjects who will participate in that process. And so we build a bunch of expectations from both sides, like their benefits, issues, risks, and then solutions, how we can satisfy those benefits, issues, and risks, like what we can achieve within this solution. So it helped us to build this very good experience for the candidates, let's say, and for the recruitment. Then when new recruiters joined company, they were really shocked how many things are automated, how things are going smoothly comparing to their previous experience working on their position. Because on their previous companies, nobody cared. So someone purchased the software, gave them and said, okay, you work with that software, that's it. We treat it as a product and trying to fine-tune this product experience from both sides. So similar experience with candidates. So they constantly share the very positive experience of applying, starting from the website interaction to the communication process and expectation management and so on. So that's a very important part.
Okay, so when we talked about team, let's flip to scalability. And this will be interesting because there's technical scalability of specific products, right? There's scalability of your business, maybe even scalability about how you do things. But I'm curious about, in all those areas, if there have been interesting stories where you've had to fight scalability as you've grown.
Right now, we're fighting scalability for sure. We were under pushing ourselves before, and now we're pushing ourselves beyond. If you look at our revenue, it was flat for many years, the same number, and then we just decided to grow, and then this is where we started growing. I remember the day we said, hey, we're not commercial enough, or we don't push ourselves to be commercially successful enough. And we did what we always do, which is like learn what that does it mean. And we started pushing the growth of our products, making mistakes, or investing somewhere, expecting things, creating a bunch of like functionality, and then hoping, the clients will come, or growing our marketing in some particular direction and then hoping for something else. And so we were pushing ourselves, and then we were learning from things. We were over-investing, we were experimenting, going above and beyond. Now we're at this point where we decided to scale the amount of products that we work on, just to put more chips on more tables. And we started working with them on a quality that we like full ownership, even at the joint venture products. And then we were like, wait, what is our role? Oh, our role is this. Okay, let's do our role, and then dialogue with the rest of the members of the products to do their role. So we overpushed ourselves, and then we kind of step back and let the management structure soak in the pressure from a particular product that we're doing. Recently, we decided to get into getting investment for something. This is a big experiment for us, right? Which can be a successful or failure, but we were like, let's try it. Let's see how it works. And while you're doing investment, you do due diligence. Due diligence is something that we didn't do that much, but we're great in data. So, let's use our data capabilities. And we start pushing, let's say, our data and analytics team to help us with this. And this is not the speed that they were used to doing that while being an internal team. And it starts the bones start cranking and the people start stretching, and we were like, oh wow, this is the physical boundary of our team, of our body as an organization, and this body is stretching and it hurts we would work in physical body. And it does it from growth. You cannot overgrow yourself too much. You cannot overpush yourself too much, because it's just gonna rip bones and muscles. But you need to push yourself all the time until it hurts, so that no pain, no gain. So this is something that is happening to us right now.
So originally, we have roots in Eastern European country, right, in Ukraine. So majority of the companies in Ukraine at that moment were service companies. But the point here that majority of those companies, they were focused on commercial side. Yaroslav mentioned that we were not commercially focused. So he's engineer, I'm engineer, a few more folks who were running in the management team, running the company. They were also rather craftsmen than businessmen or the entrepreneurs. And that was a problem for sure, from some perspective. But we consider it also as a journey that we want to enjoy. Do things that we love to do. Writing code, creating products for clients, it didn't matter much. So we just wanted to build software. And the problem that building quality software requires kind of very good engineers. So when you start to search Ruby engineers in Ukraine back then, of the quality that we expect, then you can find just a few. So it's not something that you can build a team of a few hundred people and find those engineers in Ukraine. So it was a problem, right? And one of the solutions, we started to go beyond and start to search for the talent among the other countries, kind of in Romania, in Spain, in Portugal, in Brazil, everywhere. And it helped us to scale, I would say, a bit to the extent that we have right now. But still, comparing to the bigger outsourcing shops, which has thousands of people, our model is still unscalable. I mean, our previous model, like if you would talk about pure consultancy model, it's unscalable if you want to deliver a very good quality software. What usually they do, they hire a few good engineers in the team and then a lot of juniors, middles, they call them, whatever they call them. And so those seniors, they drive the development and the rest of the team just relaxing. And the problem, the other side of the coin, is that companies, clients, they used to the models of outsourcing shops when they know that, a few folks work, the other do not work. So they want to start conversation already from the rates. And so they rather search for the cheaper force than for someone who will become actually a technical partner for them, who will take the role of CTO. And this is something they do not expect from our model. So our consultancy model is not scalable well, I would say that. So it's like boutique shop, I would say.
At first, we were learning how to write code, because what most outsourcing companies do, they don't even know how to write code. First, you write code. Then we learned to build product. Then we were learning how to build businesses, software businesses, which basically encapsulates all of it, but changes it completely as well. And now we're learning how to build a machine that builds the software businesses, because we have multiple software products, at the same time scaling the businesses themselves. Sometimes companies can just get lucky and smart, and let's say like lucky smart, and they can have this software product which becomes like Cursor, for example, right? It's a plugin for IDE, which there were people who were making plugins for IDE. They never made it into $200 million ARR product. The complexity of this software for 200 million ARR compared to another software that's making like 10,000 MRR might be 1 to 1,000, meaning Cursor is much simpler, for example, than a software that's making 10,000 MRR, because this is the business that company built with this 10,000 MRR. They're doing something incredibly complex, incredibly sophisticated and smart people, but they will not scale in any way like Cursor does. And Cursor, from the business perspective, is a genius business, right? A very simple business. The fastest growing company on the planet, right? They reached 200 million ARR in the shortest period of time, something like that. When we were working from the craft perspective and trying to learn how to write code in the perfect way with all this stuff, it has nothing to do with figuring out how to build software businesses.
So engineers, that's one thing. But the other thing is scalability horizontally, kind of introducing new roles. And we were big fans of the Valve handbook later on. And there is like a huge bubble in the middle of their universe which says HR. We looked at that picture and completely ignored this big bulb in the middle. Hiring ad hoc someone, like new position, just read a bit what is that position and try to figure on the flight how to run the interview process and so on. And only after some time, like few years, we understand that recruitment as a process is very important, and having a team in place which you can just say, hey, we need this type of expert and we need this type of position. And they kind of have all the instruments to set up the process, to prepare the interview processes, to run this interview pipeline, to publish this message that we search for such position and so on. Building a recruitment team was the key point for us to be able to start grow horizontally and vertically.
So then, for you both, I'm curious, as you step on the balcony, you look across all that you've built, product-wise, company-wise, the clients that you've made put a smile on their face. What are you most proud of?
For me, there's one thing. So we build this machine that builds products, machine that builds machines, or a machine that builds products. This whole thing, this Railsware product studio, this Railsware thing has a life on its own. It's stories and myths, it's generic goals. There's certain excellence that continue to expand. Our management team stay hungry and foolish and curious and conscious. Will always stay like that. We have this consistent thing which has certain aspects of it, and we can talk about them. But what I'm proud of is that we build this core engine that possesses all the knowledge, and all the people are a part of it, and so on and so on. This is a great thing that is capable of producing things like Calendly. we are capable of constant repeatable production and producing of great software. And I would say I'm proud of us being this. One of our byproducts is our people are happy because we care for them. They're not pawns on our chessboard. They're our people, and we would love for them to evolve, to grow, and to be generally happy. Sometimes you got to stretch them, and it's painful, but it might be, you might have a smile on your face when you stretch them. Sometimes not, though. I'm proud of this core thing that we are right now, and we're evolving, and hopefully we'll turn it into something much bigger and much greater that can build software, which, if people would use that software and save a couple of hours per day so they can go back to their kids or their dogs and spend quality life.
Definitely, the company we have built is machine for building machines, actually. Yeah. So our major product is to build products. I like and I'm proud of that we still be able to focus on craft and being successfully commercially. So we are able not to compromise on the quality of what we do. Sometimes it's not that straightforward to make a decision, right? Should you go with the better product or you should go with kind of more commercial? Sometimes it's just, you never know what will bring you a commercial success, right, in products. Sometimes it's the quality of the UI. Sometimes it's the speed of delivery to the production. The company that we have built and the company which is able to build products and not sacrificing the quality of the work that we do. Because when you have a good talent and you push them to do some work badly during some period of time, they start to become demotivated, unhappy, and in the end you lose control over the team. So I guess this balance that we keep between being successfully commercially and being able to deliver those products to the market which users love, this is the biggest proud.
Okay, so then let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
Not investing $80,000 into Calendly that would now be $250 million. That's my favorite mistake. We did invest in our clients before Calendly, and it was all a bust because we didn't understand what is it that we're doing. In Calendly, we also wouldn't understand what is it we're doing. But at that time, we said, let's pull the plug on the investments. It just doesn't make sense. We don't know how to do it, and we're not great at it. But we put our craft and soul into Calendly. So theoretically, it should have been successful, right? Or we should have at least tracked the metrics of Calendly at the beginning or understand it in some way. But now we're smart, and then back then we weren't. So we just said no, because it was such a tiring process of trying to return those investments or help clients. And it was very painful.
And the most interesting situation here that we borrowed that money. So it's not like we have been offered to purchase something for additional money. So we borrowed that money. We risked without money because if the client wouldn't return them, so we wouldn't get that money at all. But we refused to take the equity at that moment.
But just to be sure, we were working with successful Silicon Valley companies before. They were doubling, tripling, quadrupling, right? They never grew 1,500 times. We didn't know this is possible because the first Calendly evaluation was 1.5 million. So we didn't know that we would risk $80,000 knowing that it can grow 1,000 times. But double or triple, it wouldn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. 80,000 to 160K. Oh, it's okay. You lost $8,000. You lost $249,920,000 on this transaction.
And this is right now our, I would say, blueprint, something we compare to. Like if we have some problem and we discuss like why we did this and kind of we shouldn't be done that, you always compare it to those numbers, like to $200 million. And then, well, is it problem of this size? No, it isn't. So why do we even care about it?
I have another one. We built a CI product before it was cool. And we built the whole CI product at work, continuous integration product. And then we saw that there's one product that went to the market, and then they were like, we're too late. We were not too late. Like, that was a great time to deploy it and develop, and probably we would make another, $100 million company. But we were crafty, and we had this product feeling, and we were able to create products, but we just didn't have this business acumen, which came much later with all those mistakes. And now we would never do that, right? We would deliver the CI product. That's the problem. You lack the knowledge, and you didn't even know who to talk to. But nowadays people have ChatGPT. Take deep research or whatever, or Google Gemini deep research, and say, hey, I'm in this situation. I just built a CI product. This product came to the market, and I'm thinking of killing it. What do you think? And it'll be like, I think you're stupid. I think you should actually deliver it to the market because you have a great ability to capture stuff. So now people have a generic advisor that can be much better than just like, we were sitting in Ukraine and we had some friends, but there was just no one to talk to about it. And we were like, well, okay.
Let's move forward then. And this will be really exciting because I know we've talked about partnerships and new products, things that you're working on. I'm curious about what the future looks like for Railsware, for what you're going to move forward and do, for what you have on the horizon, and even beyond.
A product studio concept that we have now, we plan to evolve it further. So we have those 3 products of ours, 2 joint ventures and consultancy companies. So they're functioning kind of every product, every direction has their own team. So Railsware becomes like a mother company for many companies right now. They are more and more atomic, and independent from each other. And we plan to build at least $1 billion business out of those 5 that we work on. Maybe there are going to be more products. So that's the kind of the plan that we're moving towards, and this is our goal, I'd say.
Yep. Now, we don't get overly connected to the billion or not billion. What we really enjoy is having like enough money to expand and experiment more and just build amazing software that like it's actually really useful, with proper usage of proper real AI and solve some real world problems. That like there's this new partnership that we're about to get into, like which has in the context of ADHD, which is a big thing in the world. And if we can help within this context, this is great. Software has this weird ability to influence so many people's lives if it's done right, and if it's done at the right time with the right partners within the right business context. It's an amazing thing. It can do amazing things, and we really enjoy that. We enjoy partnering with people who pursue those dreams, and they know a lot about it, and they're like, well, we know what we want, we just gotta build it, and we have all of this knowledge and power. How to build, how not to build, how to make mistakes, how not to make mistakes, billions of dollars of wasted opportunities, right? Or, like whatever our relation is right now of realized opportunities. So we have this knowledge, and it's amazing. When you stop every one of our employee and you ask them like, so how do you do that? They might not know. But if you connect the proper amount of like a Frankenstein, like this guy and this guy and that guy, and then drive them into this direction, then create this understanding for them, they'll be like, oh, now I get it. So we have this capability. It's really cool. So this is where Railsware is going.
We can go by product also. So Coupler, for instance, we're aiming to build an analytical platform, which will be the easiest in use for the industry, powerful and easy to use. Because the very big problem is that many companies, they run their business without understanding what happens in their numbers. They don't understand their P&Ls. They don't understand how their marketing campaigns perform. They don't understand how their sales is doing. So they're driving just blindly. Although it's very popular to talk about data-driven businesses, but a lot of that do not happen in the companies. So we see all those companies around, they're driven blindly. And Coupler is aimed to bring light into this fog of the data. And that's what we're trying to build. But it's also a complicated thing. So you can have a lot of sources of data, and then even you take the existing tools, then you need someone expert who will be able to join this data, filter this data, normalize this data. So you need some expert. And to find the expert, you need super luck to find a good expert, or you need to put a lot of effort to bring this expert on board. So it becomes very complicated. That's why companies are driven blindly in many cases. And we want to deliver a version of data analytic tool, let's say, that will help a regular user to be able to connect different sources, QuickBooks, Xero, whatever, like Pipedrive, Salesforce, to a Coupler, and then with the simple navigation and AI communication, build dashboards, reports, which will be insightful, which will alert you, which will show you the spikes and, which you need to pay attention on, and so on.
I would say that the closest we are is to Atomic.vc. It's a company that built HIMS. It was created and co-founded by them, and we're in some similar games. And we have this ability to, people want to build products with us because they feel this potential success. They want to partner with us because they were like, well, instead of learning how to, do everything that you guys already know, let's just partner and join forces.
let's switch to you guys. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
I can name someone who I thought is great and I thought we could learn from, and then we eventually learned from him, and now I still think that he's great. I'm going to name Rob Mee as the first person. He was the CEO and founder of Pivotal Labs, and we learned a lot from Pivotal Labs and from Rob in general. He had philosophy, and he still has philosophy within him. He's a really amazing guy. We love him. Yeah, Chad Patel for Thoughtbot. We learned a lot of things from him. He was open. He was always great to share while we were technically de facto competitors as consultancies. With Rob Mee and Pivotal Labs, they just give us the key to the office, and I ended up spending 4 months in there, and then just talking to a bunch of their executives. One of them was Danny, also an amazing guy. He shared a lot of approaches. He shared those, like 1-inch punch approaches in certain things in recruiting or product management that ended up making a big difference within the company as we started practicing. We were practicing this 1-inch punch, and it was incredibly successful. And those are amazing contributions. But sometimes you think you're learning from someone. You think he's your hero, but then you see what that hero does later on, and you're like, this is no hero. What Steve Jobs was saying, good artists copy, great artists steal. So people go through their life and they learn certain things and they steal them. And they steal so many proper things from proper people that they become, this unstoppable weapon. Brian Chesky is one of them, like a really cool dude that started Airbnb. He still has a lot firepower within him, and he delivers new things right within Airbnb. I think he coined the term founder mode. It's about learning those things, but sometimes your heroes stole it from other people, but share it as it's their approach, right? Because they become more commercially successful. Sometimes we learn from those.
We can talk about people who has written those nice book like Good to Great, which at certain moment at Jim Collins. This book was quite influential back time then. In startup, Eric Rice's book was really kind of influential at that moment. 0 to 1 is kind of one of the books that I love. So I would say it's sometimes not just a person, but rather a book by a person who collected the information from his experience, her experience, like from the experience of their friends and partners, and then they share it as a book. But so the interesting thing here that recently I was trying to find any book that will inspire me, and I have found a book like How Decisions Are Made in NASA. And I was thinking, oh yeah, that's great. I need to listen to it. And so I was snowboarding actually, and during the whole day I was listening to that audiobook. And the funniest thing was that in many cases I was writing and thinking, all right, yeah, that's the way how we do things, and this is how we make decisions, and this is how we hire people. And like it was really very close to the approaches that has been shared in the book. So there was like nothing new for myself to get from that book, which is very kind of interesting, because I was thinking that, NASA probably is already like the highest point of, because it's not only about NASA, it's also about the SpaceX approaches, how they use this stuff there. Of course, some things are not applicable to our business when you talk about materials and like physics of the real objects. That's completely different sphere, right? But if we talk about the management approaches, about the recruitment process, about the team motivation, team management, and again, decision making, there were a lot of things described very similar to the framework that we have, this bridges framework. Basically, any problem you can describe through the bridges, but they have similar elements of the framework, but they call it differently in the book. But you see that the idea is the same. So you separate the motivation and then the solution. So you need to describe motivation first, prioritize motivation, and then through this prioritization, you already make a projection to the solution. Because in many cases, there is decisions about solutions done before description of what is the motivation behind that solution. And this is how our brain works this way. I cannot say that I had like idol or icon I would like to be like, but overall, the iPhone era was very inspiring for myself personally. Like I was playing with this iOS possibility to build something that will, some application that will appear on your mobile phone. It was so inspiring for myself personally.
Last question, guys. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit with products of your own and with your product studio?
I would say you need to look into it like in 3D, right? So for example, I was talking to an entrepreneur and he like, yeah, we're building this thing and like 2 years in it and I use all my savings and I'm so inspired and I'm changing every pixel on the homepage. And I was like, dude, don't change every pixel on the homepage. You don't even know who are you building this for, right? You got to go validate things much faster and much more aggressive. And it sucks to go validate them. It sucks to find those people and talk to them and they'll reject you and they'll tell you to go screw yourself. And you're afraid to learn that nobody needs that or maybe everyone needs that. But it's like the Schrodinger's cat. While you didn't validate it yet, you feel like it's $1 billion idea still. And you're ready to play in this unreal thing. So right, but at the second time, they validated the idea and there's like 10 people who want it and they're like, okay, now what do I do next? Where are they? And there's no funnel. It's more like a 3D object and you can grow into all the different directions. It's a process, but there are regular things like do definitely build things people want. You need ideal customer profile that you can scale for and you need the product market fit for that ideal customer profile. But this ideal customer profile has to be scalable, maybe because there might be 2 ideal customer profiles on the planet, just two people. So it's about like, how do you get this target addressable market that you can actually address? How are you going to address them? Sometimes people say, oh, I need to raise money. Why? Why do you need to raise money? Do you need to raise money? There's so many advices. There's like unlimited advices depending on the state they're at. And also, I mean, we didn't build Microsoft or GitHub, right? So we would give advice with what we think is possible.
For myself, I just want to say that I don't really feel that there is one general advice that can be applicable for any entrepreneur. So they have their situation, there are some technical aspects of the solution they build, marketing aspects, different types of aspects, right? And then we can, like I personally can advise in certain areas, which I personally spend a lot of time at. And like, let's say if someone in the airplane will tell me that I want to hire a CTO and then he will build me an engineering team, then I would probably advise him to work with some product studio like ours, like, Thoughtbot or Railsware, because it's much more simpler to start a new product with companies like ours and validate the idea. And once it's running, then you can make a decision if you want to then hire CTO, or we can help you to hire CTO. But we've seen this mistake many times, that people just think that they need to hire CTO without having any understanding what this role is about. So they just know some friend who worked in Berkeley that's as a software engineer, he probably can be a great CTO because some big name is in his title was there. It's not true. So technical aspects, marketing aspects is the other thing, as Yaroslav mentioned. So knowing your customer, having at least some strategy or a few strategies how to get to the market. So how we will sell this product, and crunch some numbers, because that's also what we see pretty often, that I will sell it, and they share some numbers, and then you start to calculate how many customers they can have, and if it's specifically like a niche product, so you can calculate how many customers they can have, then some conversion rate. And there are a lot of wishful thinking always, like the conversion will be 50% from all those customers, which 100%, which is very often not true. So, and it's better to look at 10%, 15% conversion rate, which 1% just for the sake of an experiment. Yeah, so and play the numbers, like will it generate the revenue that you expect, or will you go to a plateau and you will never be able to achieve some numbers? So many smaller different aspects. So we need to have a long discussion and contribute to the different parts of the...
In addition to that, there are this kind of Buddha level advices, like Steve Jobs was saying, stay hungry and stay foolish. Because actually when you're not foolish and you can crunch the numbers and you'll see that there's nothing in there, but maybe you would pivot and then pivot again, and then a tooth fairy would give you an idea, or something would happen, or your kid would say something and you would pivot the business and boom, you made $1 billion company. But if you crunch the numbers, you just stop. You'd be like, well, you were overthinking about stuff. It's also not the right way to go, right? So stay hungry, stay foolish is pretty smart, because if we would know our like stories ahead of time, sometimes we would never start them. But we would never start them and make mistakes, and those mistakes would not lead us to some other things and some other things. Follow the intuition, clean up the intuition. And this is a really nice article by Anderson Horowitz. It's called "What's the Most Difficult CEO Skill? Managing Your Own Psychology." And I think if you would simplify it to one advice, it would, he says, the final word of advice: don't punk out and don't quit. If you're going to quit, you're 100% not going to succeed. But if you don't quit, you have an ability to build up, and by mistake, by random, right? Like showing up, like show up. If you show up every day, you will have a chance of succeeding because you're doing something. If you don't show up and don't do anything, you will not succeed. Nobody will come to you and say, you know what? That idea that you had right before your dream, like 3 months ago, it's $1 billion idea. Here's $500 million for you right now, and I'll go build it instead of you. Thanks for the idea. I'm gonna go build it, and here's $500 million, like already. Not gonna happen. And then he has those 3 other things: technique to calm down your nerves, because this nervousness and craziness shakes you up so much that it pushes you to quit. So not to quit, make some friends and talk to them about it. Make friends in the industry, talk to them, listen to their stories. Get things out of your head and onto the paper, because the things in your head, they keep on rotating and rolling, and they're just making a hole in your head. Focus on the road, not on the wall, right? You will say, oh, what if nobody signs up? What if nobody signs up? And you get yourself crazed up, and then you just drive into the wall, because this is what you're focusing on. So focus on the road, not onto the wall.
Do not believe the books about success. Very popular genre, right? That people's one person delivered the book that how I became successful, and then all those stories, they usually very sweet, and many important details are missing. And for young entrepreneurs, they might think that everything was so easy and great, and that's inspiring, but that actually, in many cases, it's not true. Like the whole story looked completely different. It's like history of countries also are rewritten by the winners, and it might be absolutely a different scenario that led someone to success.
All fantastic pieces of advice. Well, gentlemen, thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of Railsware.
For sure. Thank you for inviting us.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.